Moby-Dick, written by Herman Melville and first published in 1851, is one of the most important and influential works in American literature. This epic novel tells the story of Captain Ahab's obsessive and dangerous pursuit of the great white whale, Moby-Dick. Set against the backdrop of a whaling voyage, the novel explores complex themes such as revenge, obsession, fate, the limits of human knowledge, and the ambiguity of good and evil. While it has often been called a sea story, Moby-Dick is also a deep philosophical meditation on humanity's struggle against nature, society, and itself. The novel begins with a now famous line, "Call me Ishmael." Ishmael, the narrator, is a young man who has decided to go to sea in order to escape the monotony of life. After finding work on a whaling ship, Ishmael joins the crew of the Pequod, a whaling vessel under the command of the mysterious and charismatic Captain Ahab. Ishmael's narration is both straightforward and reflective, giving readers an intimate look at life aboard the Pequod and the personalities of the crew, as well as philosophical musings on the nature of the sea and the human condition. Ishmael's voice, while often humorous and even playful in tone, carries a profound sense of foreboding as he recounts the tale of the doomed voyage. From the very beginning, he hints that the story will not have a happy ending, describing the sense of fate that hangs over the expedition. But his observations are rich in detail and often digress into philosophical reflections on everything from the mechanics of whaling to the metaphysical mysteries of the universe. Ishmael's journey begins in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where he signs up for a whaling voyage aboard the Pequod, a ship owned by the wealthy and enigmatic Captain Ahab. The Pequod is a whaling ship with a storied history, its name taken from a Native American tribe. The crew is a diverse group, including sailors from various nations and walks of life. Ishmael becomes particularly close with Queequeg, a harpooner from the South Sea Islands, who is initially an exotic stranger but becomes his loyal companion and friend. In the early chapters of the novel, Ishmael takes the time to explain the whaling industry in great detail, sharing with the reader the process of hunting and processing whales, the hierarchy of a whaling ship, and the various types of whales, including the elusive and legendary sperm whale. He also introduces the concept of the whale boat, the small rowboats used by the crew to harpoon whales, a practice that will be central to the narrative. As the ship sets out from Nantucket, the Pequod sails toward the South Pacific, where the crew hopes to find and kill sperm whales, the most valuable type of whale. For the first part of the journey, Ishmael is content to observe the rhythms of life aboard the ship. But the tone of the voyage shifts dramatically when Captain Ahab makes his first appearance. Captain Ahab is an imposing and mysterious figure, both charismatic and terrifying. He is introduced as a brooding, solitary man who keeps mostly to himself. As the crew gets to know him, they learn that Ahab has a singular obsession: to find and kill Moby-Dick, the great white whale that took his leg during a previous voyage. Ahab's desire for vengeance is so consuming that it eclipses everything else, including the safety and well-being of the crew. He has a large, ivory prosthetic leg that symbolizes his disfigurement, but also his unrelenting determination to pursue Moby-Dick. Ahab's obsession with Moby-Dick is not just about revenge. It is also about an existential desire to conquer nature itself. Throughout the novel, Ahab speaks in grand, almost mystical terms about the whale, describing it as a symbol of the forces of fate and chaos that govern the universe. For Ahab, Moby-Dick represents all of life's struggles, all of humanity's fears and frustrations, and he believes that killing the whale will give him power over the universe. Ahab's obsession becomes the driving force of the novel, and he slowly manipulates the crew into joining him in his quest for the whale, offering them gold for the first man who spots it. The rest of the crew, including Ishmael, are swept up in Ahab's fervor. While many of them are not as consumed by Ahab's desire for vengeance, they agree to follow him on the hunt. Ishmael, in particular, is fascinated by Ahab's intensity, but he also begins to feel the weight of the captain's obsession. As the crew sails further into the open ocean, the novel explores the psychological and philosophical consequences of Ahab's unyielding pursuit of the whale. One of the central themes of Moby-Dick is the conflict between man and nature. Ahab's desire to control nature is mirrored in his disregard for the natural rhythms of the sea and the whales he hunts. Throughout the novel, Melville explores the idea that nature is indifferent to human endeavors. The ocean is a vast, powerful, and uncontrollable force that can both give life and take it away. Moby-Dick, the whale itself, represents this force in its purest form, a creature so powerful and untamable that it can easily overpower even the most well-equipped man. Ishmael, in contrast to Ahab, represents a more balanced view of nature. While he is intrigued by the whale hunt, he is not consumed by the need to control it. He is more content to observe the natural world and is constantly questioning humanity's place in it. This contrast between Ahab and Ishmael's philosophies forms the core of the novel's thematic conflict. As Ahab becomes increasingly obsessed, the rest of the crew begins to notice the dangers of his single-minded pursuit. Ahab disregards the well-being of the men, pushing them past the limits of reason in order to chase Moby-Dick. The novel explores how this obsession begins to affect the crew, with Ahab becoming more isolated and increasingly authoritarian, while Ishmael and the others begin to question whether Ahab's quest is worth the risk. The tension reaches a boiling point when the Pequod finally encounters Moby-Dick. The first encounter is a harrowing battle, as the crew attempts to kill the whale using their small whaleboats. Moby-Dick proves to be far more powerful and intelligent than the crew could have imagined. The whale attacks the boats, killing one of the harpooners and injuring several others, but Ahab refuses to give up. He is more determined than ever to hunt the whale, and the crew, despite their growing fear, follows him. This initial confrontation is a turning point in the novel, as it sets the stage for the final, disastrous encounter. Ahab's obsession has reached its peak, and there is no turning back. His relentless pursuit of the whale has already cost the lives of several men, and yet he continues to drive the crew toward destruction. In the final chapters of the novel, Ahab and the Pequod crew have several more encounters with Moby-Dick, each one more violent and intense than the last. The whale becomes a symbol of nature's ultimate power, resisting all attempts at domination. Ahab's obsession grows more desperate, and he becomes more unstable. His single-minded pursuit of vengeance blinds him to the dangers surrounding him, and he begins to see Moby-Dick not only as a creature to be killed, but as an enemy to be vanquished in a cosmic struggle. The final confrontation with Moby-Dick is an epic and tragic battle. In a climactic scene, Ahab confronts the whale one last time. Despite his best efforts, Ahab is ultimately doomed by his obsession. The whale, as if to punish him for his hubris, drags the Pequod under, destroying the ship and killing nearly everyone aboard. Ahab is killed by the whale, his body wrapped in the ropes of the harpoon he had thrown in a final futile attempt to kill it. Moby-Dick disappears into the vastness of the ocean, leaving only Ishmael as the sole survivor of the ill-fated voyage. Ishmael, cast adrift on a small piece of the wreckage, is the only survivor. In the novel's final lines, Ishmael is rescued by the ship Rachel, and he lives to tell the tale of the Pequod's tragic voyage. Ishmael's survival is a testament to the fragility of human life and the randomness of fate. Throughout the novel, he has grappled with questions about the meaning of life, fate, and the human struggle against nature. His survival, though accidental, suggests that human life is at the mercy of forces far beyond individual control. Moby-Dick is a novel rich with themes that touch on the human condition. One of the most prominent themes is obsession. Captain Ahab's obsession with Moby-Dick leads him to sacrifice everything: his crew, his ship, his life, in the pursuit of revenge. This single-minded determination to defeat the whale represents the destructive power of obsession and how it can blind individuals to everything else in their lives. The novel also explores the idea of fate and free will. Ahab believes that he can control his fate and conquer nature by killing Moby-Dick, but ultimately, he is powerless in the face of the whale and the forces of nature. The novel asks whether humans are masters of their destinies or whether they are at the mercy of a vast, indifferent universe. The conflict between humanity and nature is another key theme. Ahab's desire to conquer nature is contrasted with Ishmael's more humble and reflective approach. The novel suggests that humans, while capable of great achievements, are ultimately small and powerless in the face of nature's vastness and unpredictability. Finally, Moby-Dick is a meditation on the limits of knowledge and understanding. Throughout the novel, Melville presents a universe full of mysteries, many of which are beyond human comprehension. Ahab's refusal to accept the unknown and his obsession with understanding the whale mirrors humanity's struggle to grasp the unknowable. Moby-Dick is a deeply philosophical and thought-provoking novel that examines the limits of human understanding, the destructive power of obsession, and humanity's place in the vast, mysterious universe. Through the story of Captain Ahab's doomed quest for vengeance, Melville explores complex themes that remain relevant to this day. The novel's tragic ending serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of obsession and the futility of trying to control forces greater than oneself.